Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. My biggest opponent, Coco Gauff unveils French Open struggles that fueled her title-winning comeback. Still a teenager at that time, Coco Gauff was spotted wiping her tears after losing her final match to Iga Swiatek at the 2022 French Open final. It was a day of break and make for the youngster. How? She explained. It felt like seeing your dreams kind of snatched away. But at the same time, it reignited her hunger to come back stronger. Although she yet again went down to the same opponent last year in the SF by straight sets, this year she finally managed to get to the other side of the finishing line by defeating the current world number, Aryna Sabalenka, in a 3-set thriller. Following this victory, she became the first American woman to lift the Roland Garros title since Serena Williams, 2015. But amidst all these celebrations, Gauff has now seen time and again revisiting her memories from 2022. With age comes wisdom, and Coco Gauff has now understood what really went wrong at that time. In a previous interview, she revealed that at that time, she was a bit too anxious about not wanting to disappoint people. Hence, she put a lot more added pressure on herself. I was doubting myself, wondering if I would ever be able to circumnavigate it, especially my mentality going into that match. I was crying before that final, and I was so nervous. I was like, if I can't handle this, how am I going to handle it again? But this time, she claims she felt ready. It was more about completing her unfinished business. In 2025, in a recent interview with Nikki Oganek on Nice Talk, she was asked about how she navigates these difficult times when she gets so close to winning. Replying to that, Coco Gauff said, "Yeah, honestly, after that 2022 final, I had no idea how to access these tools. I didn't know how to center myself. I didn't know how to meditate. Didn't know how to look at the positive side of things. So I really sat in that disappointment for months, maybe up to a year. Honestly, just sitting in that disappointment in myself. And then afterward it got healed with time. But she realized, I can't sit in this if I want to accomplish my dreams. And I can't be my biggest opponent first. So that's when she realized that she has to look at the positive side of things and control her own narrative. And not let the narrative control her. That was the time when she felt that she was letting tennis control her emotions and everything, including how she was going to approach her life. I realized it should be the opposite. So I started to welcome more friends in my life, more family, enjoying those experiences, taking trips and going to concerts and things like that. And I think the more I did that, the more I found happiness on the court, admitted Coco Gauff. She paid full attention to every detail and felt the moment when she saw Iga Swiatek lift the title 3 years ago. From hearing the Polish anthem ringing around the iconic Philip Chatrier to witnessing an emotional moment while the USA anthem was played after her win this year, that sums up the transition of a rising star to a superstar. But with every success comes the burden of expectations, and with expectations, there is always a chance of facing severe criticism upon failure. How has Gauff managed this outside noise amid her chase for excellence? The 21-year-old tennis star has now learned how to manage the negativities in a better way and bring more favorable outcomes from all those criticisms through her performances. So doubters have now become literally motivators for Coco Gauff. Remember what she said after winning the US Open title in 2023. Thank you to the people who didn't believe in me. To those who thought they were putting water on my fire, you were really adding gas to it. Now I'm really burning so bright right now. Pressure has now become a privilege for the youngster. And talking about tackling her doubters in that same conversation with Nikki Oganek, Coco Gauff said, I realized it's almost impossible to escape the noise. So I think for me it's just trying to remember what my expectations of myself are, what expectations of the people around me have of me, and keeping those morals really close and important. And sometimes I do welcome the noise. I think it gives me a reason to prove people wrong or also prove people right. So it's something that is finding the right balance of doing both. For those who called out Coco Gauff a one-slam wonder, her recent triumph at the Roland Garros is a perfect reply to silence those critics. But now the question is, after already securing her second major title in her career, can she land her third at Wimbledon? There's a strange silence in Paris, even when it's loud. You feel it not in your ears, but deep in your chest, like the hush before a storm, or the breath you hold before a serve. I've played on big stages. I've heard my name screamed from the rafters. But at Roland Garros, I heard something else. I heard doubt. It didn't come from the stands. It wasn't in the voice of an opponent or a critic. It whispered from somewhere closer, somewhere scarier. It came from me. The clay and the cracks. The French Open has never been easy for me. It's ironic, really. Clay suits my movement, my spin, my ability to scramble and slide. But no surface exposes your thoughts like clay. Every point stretches into a saga. You can't rush through mistakes. You have to sit with them, grind them out, sometimes watch them play on repeat. And this year, I came into Paris carrying more than my rackets. I carried expectations, some my own, most not. I carried comparisons, some fair, most cruel. I carried the ghost of finals I didn't win and semifinals I couldn't finish. I carried the version of myself the world wanted me to be. But what waved the most was the voice in my head, the first serve into the past. They say champions are born in struggle, but no one tells you how ugly that struggle feels when you're in it. I remember walking off the court after a brutal early round at Roland Garros last year. I had scraped through, but it felt like a loss. My mind was cluttered, my shots hesitant, my heart heavy. There was no injury, no scandal, just resistance. Not from my opponent, from myself. I went back to the locker room, dropped my bag, and stared at the floor tiles. For a second, I imagined walking away, not from tennis, but from the noise, from the pressure, from the endless chase of being the next Serena, when all I wanted was to be Coco. I remembered being 15 and fearless. I remembered Wimbledon and Magic, and the way the crowd lifted me like wings. But now, I was older, wiser, and maybe a little more broken. Somewhere along the way, I had started to believe the lie that struggle meant failure. I needed to unlearn that. The comeback that wasn't just a match. When people talk about comebacks, they love to focus on the final point, the moment of victory, the glory, the celebration. But that's not where a comeback begins. Mine started months earlier in quiet practice sessions with no cameras, just sweat and silence. It started in conversations with my team, where we tore down the mental walls I built and replaced them with belief, brick by brick. It started when I stopped fearing my flaws and started embracing them as part of my fight. I studied not just my forehand, but my fear. I worked not just on speed, but on stillness. And I faced not just opponents, but myself. My real rival. They put names on the draws. Swiatek, Sabalenka, Rybakina. Each of them fierce, each of them worthy. But deep down, I knew that my biggest opponent didn't stand on the other side of the net. She lived inside me. She was the version of me that gave in too early. She was the one who doubted when the match got tight. She was the echo of every critic who said I couldn't win a slam. She was the almost that haunted my highlights. To beat her, I had to look her in the eye. So I did. Match after match in Paris, I quieted her voice. Not with perfection, but with persistence. Not with dominance, but with discipline. Not with magic, but with maturity. The match that changed everything. There was a turning point this French Open. Not in the final, but in the quarters. I was down a set, struggling with rhythm, and that familiar tension crept in. My shoulders tightened. My timing faltered. The whispers came back. You always lose here. You're not clutch. This isn't your slam. But then something broke. Not in my game, but in my mindset. I stopped waiting to feel confident. I played through the discomfort. I let go of the scoreboard, the history, the pressure. I played the next point, then the next, and then the next. By the time I walked off that court victorious, it wasn't just a win. It was a liberation. I had stopped fighting the moment and started trusting myself. The final. A dance, not a duel. In the final, the world saw firepower. They saw focus. They saw a Coco Gauff who had evolved. But what I felt was peace. I wasn't afraid of losing. I wasn't chasing validation. I was just present with every serve, every rally, every roar from the crowd. When match point came, it wasn't an explosion. It was a release. And as the ball sailed wide and the crowd erupted, I didn't scream right away. I looked up, not at the sky, but inward. And I smiled, because I knew I hadn't just won a Grand Slam. I had finally beaten my biggest opponent. After the applause, there's a trophy now, a title, a page in the history books.